Let's try this again for the 15th time. It's been one issue after another. OBS gives me problems whenever I make videos that are too long, where it will not stop recording. I can force the whole program to stop, but then it deletes like 90% of the video. I thought this was uploading too quickly. Whenever it finally uploaded to, I guess it was YouTube, it showed 13 minutes of roughly an hour-long video that I made. So I got to do it all over again. It'll be a little faster though, because some of it was me just kind of typing and going through all of it, and so doing the research as I was filming, put it that way. So hopefully it won't be that long. Not this time. And so I am Jeremy. Thanks for coming to the channel. I am looking to improve myself. It's not one of these little nonsensical things of just improving my health. Or it's going to be that too, but it's going to be more encompassing than all of that. Over here above my head, I'm giving it a little bit of a spin instead of just self-improvement. Just for me, I don't want to be narcissistic about this. I want it to be for others, especially my family, and also for you, because I mean, why not monetize your work and your interests? That would be great. And this is just the Noble House Jones. That's my last name. The legend, the meaning behind the coat of arms, and I'm not going to go over this again. I'll go over this. I have like these 6 keys that I'm going to put somewhere on the coat of arms. One of them is going to be for the body. It's going to look like a skeleton key kind of thing, because your diet and exercise, it is important, but it's not the only thing. It's like if that's all you're going to focus on. But faith, knowledge, knowing yourself, your needs, personal relationships, and then the things that aren't covered, they're just going to be kind of like general values, family values. So in the last video we talked about change. Everything changes because of time, and it destroys everything. Nothing's going to last forever, and I've definitely seen this throughout my old age of my many years. Is that technology has definitely had a huge impact on how quickly things change. I mean, you get a smartphone and it's like every 6 months it seems like there's a newer model of the silly thing out there. But in order to do change, well, the enemy of change is complacency. We get comfortable. You need to have some form of discomfort. It doesn't mean everything all the time, but to do the change, you do need to have courage. There's physical courage, there's moral courage too, which it looks like we were kind of lacking in that a little bit. And the ways this is laid out, this is kind of like the definition that you could find looking it up either through Google or Wikipedia, and then this is in my own words. And this is just someone who kind of said something that I agree with, kind of a third person kind of thing. And then the enemy of courage is fear, if you let your fear overtake you. But we just don't want to change. We want to change for the better. We want to improve ourselves. Things that are positive, good, that make you feel strong, be strong. We want to stay. We don't want to make our vices stronger, weakness, negativity. And to help stay on that, it's by, well, what's the truth? What does the empirical evidence say? What are the facts? Really want to be careful of our emotions, not let our emotions take control. We want to stay away from things that are meaningless, such as platitudes. We want to keep our vanity in check. Let's underline that word. And to help that we are understanding and getting the best information, we want to play along with the devil's advocate a little bit. In other words, trying to understand the opposition, what are the counter arguments to this. And so this means that the enemy to that would be being closed-minded, having a narrow view, or arrogant. And those all kind of interact with each other. They're tied together. I wanted to kind of stray away from that a little bit for right now. All of this is going to grow. This is just kind of like a preliminary introduction to all this stuff, and it's going to keep growing. I said in the last video, I wouldn't be surprised if somewhere down the road, if there's, I might write a whole book on each one of these whenever it comes down to it. I hope not. I hope it's not that much, but I don't see why that couldn't be the case. I'd like to keep it short because at some point in time, it's like, you've done enough. Move on. So today, I'm going to talk about individuality and how important I think that it is. What are your values? I'm encouraging you to do this along with me. Get out a piece of paper, or I guess your computer, open up a notepad, and just, what are the things that you value and why? Even if it's just a little bit. Copy me if you want to. I don't give a damn. Or if you just want to have fun, if you want to have a noble house. Or in other words, if you want to make life better for yourself or for your family, especially like your children, if you'd like to help them out more, elevate the standard of living for everyone, well, the stuff's not just going to fall out of the sky. You're going to have to get up off your butt and do something about it. So that's what I'm doing. And talk is cheap. What are your actions? Well, here's my actions. I looked on, and so if this is interesting to you, give it a like, give it a thumbs up, subscribe, and become a member, and continue to watch as I do this. And maybe somewhere along the road, you'll join me if you don't do it now, and it'll always be here. I'm not going to ever take any of this off. I got on and Googled it, and I looked on Wikipedia, and I didn't like the definitions with it at all, but there is this video. It's called Individualism versus Collectivism, and this is from Learn Liberty. It's about 3 minutes. Then there is a video from Jordan Peterson on individualism from a YouTube channel called Minute Mind. Then there's a video from TED Talks. It's called Why the Majority is Always Wrong by Paul. I'm not going to say his last name. Then there's another Paul here who's against individualism in a way, and it's because that devil's advocate kind of thing, and what he says just makes no sense to me at all. It sounds like a bunch of stupidity to me. For a little bit of fun, I also have Superman and his dad talking from the movie Man of Steel. It's because these few little lines right here that I'm going to show actually kind of makes a little bit of sense. And then for some other bit of fun, I have The Simpsons of all places, and they have, I think there is a line or two that whenever I first recorded this, it's like, I'm going to take that line because I think it holds true. So, but I found the definition that I have on my notepad that I'm using from this guy. So we're going to go ahead and listen to him, and we're going to listen probably the most out of this guy. The rest of them is just going to be a few seconds. It's not going to be very much from the rest of them.
One of the defining characteristics of philosophical liberalism is the idea of individualism. Each person is an autonomous individual deserving of respect and dignity equal to that of all others, which entails the freedom to pursue ends of his or her own design, provided that this doesn't abrogate the similar freedom of others.
Oh my goodness. I tell you what, just listening it to again, each person is an autonomous individual deserving of respect and dignity equal to that of all others. Not elevated beyond someone else, not to give special treatment. The way this is about first encounters. Now, you can have more respect and dignity given to people who have earned it. But there is kind of this minimum that you want to have to all people. And it's because This is what I believe because I want to be treated this way. I will show you respect and dignity whenever we first meet, whether it be online or in person. And it's just common little courtesies, small talk. Hey, how are you? Could you help me? Thank you very much. You know, holding the door open, simple little things. And it's because, yes, you give people the benefit of the doubt. And if they reciprocate, good, you continue to foster that and to grow it. And if they don't, then it's like, don't fight with them. You walk away, because you should have better things to do with your life than to fight and argue with someone. And that's something that I don't like with people who engage with like Antifa, and they scream and they argue and they yell with them. It's like, you're not doing anything. They're still going to come back. It's going to be the same people and it's the same stupid stuff. You've done absolutely nothing. You know, and so it's like the Proud Boys, you know, it's like, what did you really accomplish? You know, you prevented anything? No. Are they going to get together again? Yes. You know how you really win that fight? Is this. You need to know the arguments. You need to know what's going on. And individuality is one of these things where this is something that I believe in personally, that people need to understand that they are important, that they have worth in their personal lives and also in the greater picture of your society. It's kind of a dual hitting kind of thing. So this entails the freedoms that you should have as an individual to be able to pursue your own ends of his or her own design, as long as you're not infringing on someone else's freedoms. You know, so in other words, do you. You know, as long as you're not telling me what to do, you're not being some kind of authoritarian, and we're seeing this a lot with COVID and the masks and all this stuff, and it's like, no, don't tell me what to do. If you want to, that's fine. You can do what you want, but I'll do what I feel is best for me. I know what my health is. I know what I'm reacting to and what I'm not. I know what my finances are, and it's not someone hundreds and thousands of miles away who's some politician who I've never met before in my life and probably never will. And even if I did meet them, it would just be for a moment. They'd never know me. You know, there's roughly, 330 million people in the U.S. It's impossible. So yes, I believe, you know, that improvement that I want to improve to be to those things that are positive and good and strong. And this, I'm never going to get that if I first don't do that. I need to show it and live it and lead by example, kind of along those lines.
But aren't we social creatures? Don't we need community in order to flourish? And if the answer is yes, does that mean that individual rights are a big mistake? Actually, it's true that we're social creatures, but this doesn't imply that individualism is a mistake.
And while I was looking this stuff up, one of the things that I saw someone kind of going against individualism was that we're social, and so individuality doesn't work with being social. It's like, the hell it does. They were doing a straw man argument where they were trying to say individuality means that you're going to be in some kind of isolationism. It's like, no, that's absolutely wrong. The more individualistic you are, you could say, in a way, as long as these are good qualities and values and stuff, you should want that. The better educated they are, the more you would want somebody in a different field to come and do something for you. Whenever I was in college, I had a professor speak on this, saying that there was a good thing of diversity being a strength, but it was always expressed as being educated in something, then taking what you've learned and applying it to a different field. And the example he gave was that there were some engineers these people learned to be engineers, and then they went into psychology. And whenever you're an engineer, you're designing things. You're going to engineer how this bridge is going to be built, or this nuclear power plant, or whatever. And so if your engineering designs are wrong, it could end up killing people. So they took this really hard scrutiny and attention to details and applied it to psychology. And it really kind of helped clear things up and standardize things, made it easier to work in the field, and they saw a lot of progress after doing all of that. What it wasn't was just randomly grabbing people who didn't know their left from their right and thinking that you were going to get something out of that. No, it was by getting people who knew something and then trying to apply what they learned in this new thing. And we'll talk about this on that TED Talks, because he talks about this, about being able to see things outside of the box.
Karl Marx claimed that our identities are constituted entirely by our socioeconomic class, and that autonomy was an illusion.
I've looked into Karl Marx before trying to understand him, and it's just like none of it makes any sense whatsoever. The only thing that I could say is that maybe because whenever he was alive, that there was so little communication and technology was basically non-existent, and that his understanding of the world was just so small that I don't think I don't know how you could see the larger picture. You know, we see it today and we take it for granted because we have computers and the internet, and so we see a lot constantly all the time, and I think it's kind of a problem in a way, because it's like you're not going to change the world. You're kind of getting ahead of yourself there, aren't you? So
the prevailing economic system determines how you think. The liberal project was...
It's like, that is an absolute lie, because if that was true, then nothing would ever change, because whatever ruling factor is kind of there, then that's what would always be there, and there would never be any kind of revolutionary kind of movements or whatever. So it's just...
flawed, Marx said, because it caused people to have false ideas about labor, capital, society, even our own...
And you know what? If yours was so good, then where the hell is this revolutionary thing that he's proclaimed all those decades ago? It's like, where the hell is it? It's like it's absolutely nowhere, and never has it been there. This concept of individuality and giving people the freedom has brought about the strongest, most productive nations the world has ever seen. I just don't understand how this is even an argument or a thing to discuss. Part of it is that I think nobody's really kind of... Well, no, I mean, I'm doing more than all this.
Selves. Mussolini also claimed that the liberal project was flawed because it caused people to have false ideas about labor.
Yeah, or are you kidding me? Yeah, he was a dictator, and you think he's going to go with that? Because that would take him out of power, so it's like, no.
Capital, society, and our own selves. But his claim was that our identity was constituted and determined not by class, but by our ethnicity. These days, few defend these claims, but it's a lot more common to claim.
I would also like to point out that, yes, this video is from 2011. And then people weren't defending this stuff. So whenever I was going through high school and college, this was in the 90s. And I've heard that during the 90s, there was actually a push for all of this stuff with socialism and collectivism and all this kind of garbage stuff. But the students actually kind of fought back and said, yeah, you're out of your mind. And it wasn't until the 2000s where it started to change, and it's changed more and more and more. And it's like, well, what the hell happened? You know, what went on where things changed at school and with the students? I mean, did the school system just drop the ball and just let all this kind of just go down into the tubes? Because I see these kids, these young people especially, and it's like they have no idea what they're talking about. And for some reason, they don't even want to, they won't talk about it. They won't even let others ask questions about it or nothing. And I tell you, the more I see of it, the more I think it is kind of a cult more than it is anything else. I don't know how else to explain it.
Claim that the community determines our identity. and that liberalism is a flawed project. This is sometimes called the communitarian argument against liberal individualism. But what is the community? We're all members of many different communities simultaneously: family, town, ethnicity, region, nation, religion.
Yeah, and I put that on the word pad too. Let's see, make sure it's showing up. Yeah. Whenever you hear these people talk about Black Lives Matter and you're white or straight or Christian or whatever, you know, and those are bad, and gay pride, gay rights, trans rights, and all this stuff, it's like, no, that's not what it is. It's not this one thing. Black Lives Matter is a good example that I think a lot of people know something about it. It's like Black Lives Matter doesn't care. It's an organization that's out there to get money. Because if they were really wanting to like reform police and how they handle the black community with just their general dealings and the shootings, then they would want to have everyone on board that they could possibly get their hands on. And they would say things like, technically, there are more white people who were killed by cops than by blacks. So then why wouldn't you use that to help get white people, and you know, what's the same thing for Asians and Hispanics, to get everyone on board? What's the goal? Is the goal to give black people special treatment? Or is the goal to reform police so that they handle their situations better? And how about they do that for everyone instead of just this selective group? So yes, I am for all lives matter because I want to see police reform. I think that is something that is very worthwhile in going after. But you're never going to get it whenever you're just pushing for one group like that. And I would say that all lives matter too right now is not, that's just a counter to Black Lives Matter. They're not doing anything other than arguing with Black Lives Matter, so they're all missing the mark. So, but you know, if you ever look at those people who are in charge of Black Lives Matter, the people who are leading all that stuff, man, how they manage those $1 million houses that they got, because it brings in a lot of money, so they can afford to do all this stuff now. So it makes you wonder, you know, are they ever really going to do anything or not? Because it's not like it's like, well, here's a problem. They're shooting too much. Okay, well, why and how and when? Let's start asking these questions and figure out what we can do about it. But you never hear that. You just see them yelling and screaming and holding up signs, and it's like, how's that going to change? Where are your policies that you want to do? Where's the reform? I don't know of any reform. Hopefully they've got some out there. I don't keep on top of it. This isn't like some anti-Black Lives Matter thing. It's like, of course Black Lives Matter, you stupid little child. But this was good. You know, he was saying that we are also members of all these communities of our family, town, ethnicity, region, nation, religions, and we are also members of communities through our interests and our affiliations, professions, hobbies, sports loyalties, and other manifestations of our preferences. And so all of these make us into the individuals that we are. You know, you don't have my family. I don't live in a town with millions of people. The entire U.S. does not live in one town. And everyone in the U.S. is not white. There's Hispanic, Asian, Black, you name it. I live in Texas. So all of these things are all little pieces that make up me. And I see it more of a two-way street, because we don't live alone. But at the same time, I don't want to live with everyone all the time. I like my personal space. I like to be able to come home and to not have to worry about the demands of society.
In addition to these, we become members of communities through our interests and affiliations, professions, hobbies, sports loyalties, and other manifestations of our preferences. To be sure, All these things play a role in helping shape who we become. But it's a stretch to say that any of them trumps any of the others, or that the process is deterministic.
Yeah, and this just goes along too with that, because we are individuals and we're not a part of this collective group, this means that you cannot throw the blame away from yourself. You have personal responsibilities for it all, for the community, for these groups, and for yourself. And the biggest force that you have a control over is yourself. Because some of you who are watching might live in the US. You've got no control over me. You will not tell me what to do. Maybe if you're someone where we build up some dignity and respect for one another, maybe I'll give some more weight to what it is that you have to say. But until then, it's like, no, because there's millions of people out there. I'm not going to go talk to every Tom, Dick, and Harry out there.
Communitarianism seems to elide the distinction between influencing and determining. We still make choices about our values and actions, despite there being many influences on our thinking. If you had to do everything yourself, you'd never get anything done.
And that's a big thing with socialism, is that everyone should just take care of themselves and work the land and go out and farm. And it's like, you're an idiot. Then how long is it going to take you to cure any disease? How long is it going to take you to find the cure of cancer? How long is it going to take you to build a house like this? It's like you can't. It's literally impossible. You're not going to be able to make the tiles for the roof, the floors, or the shingles for the roof, the tiles for the bathroom, the carpet for the living room, the windows and the glass and the curtains, the ceiling fans. How long is it going to take you to do just to create the copper wiring to be able to run electricity through your house? How long is that going to take? And then even if you manage to do that somehow, how are you going to manage to also build an electrical power plant to give you electricity? How long is it going to take you to be able to come up with a water purification system for your entire place? To be able to wash and dry your clothes? How long is it going to take you to be able to build a computer from scratch? Because that's what they're talking about. It's like, no, you want individuals, and you want people to be able to specialize and for you to be able to interact with each other.
Being part of a community allows us to divide labor and benefit from specialization and trade. Besides the economic benefits of social living, we also need friendships and culture and entertainment. But we get these benefits from social living because we're individuals.
Yeah. Whenever you have people who are doing good, who are being productive, who are contributing, then the better and the stronger the society becomes. And you don't get that through authoritarianism and everybody just kind of just falling in line, lockstep and key. It's just like, no. And we'll see that with The Simpsons with their little parody.
One reason society has so much to offer is that we're all a little different.
Oh, man. Oh, what a great line. Did I put that in there? Yeah. But some of us are pretty kind of close in many ways, but...
The great diversity of human interests and talents and preferences is a testimony to our individualism, and society just is the manifestation of these differences as they're brought together. If everyone thought the same way and liked all the same things, society would be a much less interesting place. So the idea that to protect community, we need to stop thinking of people as autonomous individuals is getting it backwards. If we really care about the well-being of communities and preserving the way that society contributes to human flourishing, we ought to keep in mind the unique and autonomous individuals that make it up. Oh, man.
I've watched this thing several times now just today because it keeps messing up on me. But every time I listen to that guy, it's like, man, that's just knocking it out of the park. And then here...
we could get our hands on. It's because we got certain fundamental assumptions right. Thank God for that. After thousands and thousands of years of trying. And because of that...
He's talking about why people live in certain nations, why people flee certain nations and go to others.
We've managed to establish a set of civilizations that are shining lights in the world. You know, now, you can be pretty damn filthy and still be a shining light in this world, right? Because if you look around the world at the state of governance in most places, it's like the most pathological, corrupt, and vicious thugs rule. And to stand out as an illuminated light against that background isn't so difficult. But nonetheless, you know, we're as good as it's got. And unless we can come up with something better, we should be very careful about messing around with that. So why don't we start with the assumption?
Yeah, there are some Asian countries that you could not pay me to go to Vietnam or to the Philippines. Well, maybe the Philippines. Is it Vietnam? One of them where they've got the royal family that kind of rules over there, and they just like slaughter people.
That we're doing something right. One of the things we're doing right, for example, is that we actually value the individual, right? The individual has intrinsic value in Western societies. Do you know how long it took people to...
Excuse me.
Of Western civilization, the fundamental assumptions of Western civilization are valid. How about that? You're actually worth something.
Yeah, and so I'll leave a link of all of these in the description below. And he talks about it a little bit more in the video about there's a reason why people leave third world nations and even second world nations to come to first world nations. And it's not the other way around. There are not people leaving the U.S. to go to Kenya, for example, or to Panama. Well, Panama a little bit more now. They're a little more stable, and this part of it is because we were in charge of the canal there for so long, but we've actually kind of handed it over. I don't know what it's like today. I know there were quite a few people who were actually kind of retiring there because it's kind of a pretty place, and the dollar gets you more there. It's got more strength than what it does here. And I know of some people in my personal life where they plan on retiring in some of these more secure third world nations where their money just goes above and beyond. It's like, crap, yeah, you can buy a lot.
Hey, tonight, let's have something to eat. Have dinner tonight, what would be the option? About their own performance. And this is the reason that many people go through life acting like a mediocre race car driver who sits in his car. Over 95% of our life we run on automatic pilot. For example, if you ever driven a car and you realize, oh.
So he's talking about how whenever you think, your brain uses quite a bit of energy to be able to do that, and we don't think very often, so we get in this automatic drive kind of thing. And he talks about specifically about driving too, that you know, you just kind of drive and then, oh, I'm already here, and you didn't even realize it.
Whoa, what did I do in the past half an hour? That's your brain on automatic pilot. Over 95% of our life we run on automatic pilot. For example, if you've ever driven a car and then you realize, whoa, what did I do in the past half an hour? That's...
And then he talks about that we get stuck in this little box of thinking.
Take a close look at the box. You see that the boundaries of this box are very well defined. So we think inside defined boundaries. I'll give you an example. One boundary is a legal boundary, and we think within the legal framework. I'll give you an example where very few of you would think of stealing the wallet of the person next to you in order to fund your next cool startup. Yeah? At least that's what I hope. So we think in legal boundaries, but there are other boundaries as well. We think in technological boundaries, we think in physical boundaries, but we also think in moral boundaries. And this is why we think inside the box. At least that's what we think. Because the reality is that the box in which we think looks more like this.
That we,
now, for those of you,
in other words, he's saying we limit ourselves quite a bit because of all these kind of guidelines that we've placed on ourselves, the legal ones, the moral ones, whatever. And then he talks about, he gives an example, you know, if you wanted to go get something to eat, you might get a pizza, cook at home or whatever. But would you think of getting roadkill?
We can pick up some dead animals on the side of the road and prepare ourselves a crispy dinner. That's a disturbing thought. But here's the funny thing, for many people in the world, this would be a perfectly normal response. Nothing wrong with that. So what it shows is that the box in which we think is actually very, very small.
Yeah, and that's a good point. You know, and so it's like, how do we ever do this? And whenever we are doing things within these boundaries, these are called industry standards. But whenever you get outside of the industry standards, then that's whenever you have innovation.
Abbreviation for normal. In other words, if you do what everyone else is doing, you get results that everyone else is getting, and those are normal results. And the thing is, what we are after today are extraordinary results. So the key question is, of course, how can you kick yourself out of the box, out of this very small box of your industry and professional field, and move to the happy place, where cool innovation happens? Now, how can you do that? Now, let me introduce you the curious case of the London taxi drivers.
I like this example that he gives here.
If you want to become a taxi driver in London, you need to know the entire city by heart. And this is called the knowledge. And you can imagine it takes years to get the knowledge in your head. And that's a bit of a problem if you want to rapidly expand your taxi business. So they ask themselves a question: how can we rapidly expand our taxi business while at the same time employing taxi drivers who do not know anything about the city of London? And then they came up with a very ingenious solution. What they said, well, actually, then we make two kinds of taxis. One is a normal taxi, and the other taxi has a big sign on it which says, the driver of this vehicle does not know anything about the city of London, but loves to get directions from you. And that's a brilliant solution, because...
Oh, and I've seen this stuff. I've seen videos where people are arguing with the taxi driver or the Lyft or Uber guy or whatever, you know, about how to get there. Well, this is what the GPS says. Well, this is the route that I take all the time, so you listen to me. It's like, yeah, you know, so what? I don't understand why those arguments happen. You know, if that's what that driver or that passenger wants, then do it. I don't understand why any of them ever get into those arguments. And the smarter ones are like, oh, okay, if that's what you want, yeah, well, it might take longer. Are you fine with that? Yeah, okay, well, then I'll do it. Who cares? So I think that's brilliant, but that's thinking outside of the box, you know, because how do you manage something like that? It's like, well, how do you get somebody who doesn't know how to navigate the city to be a taxi driver? Oh, well, you let the passenger explain it to you, because what are most of the passengers going to be? They're going to be locals, right? Great. We'll put the experienced drivers out there at the airport who know their way around the city, and we'll put the people who don't, you know, they'll be the ones going to the businesses and people's places, and they'll know their way around. But you have to think outside of the box. You have to do something different, you know. And he said that with that, I think he said like 97% of people will either keep doing the same thing or they'll do a little bit less, but only 3% will actually diverge into actually trying something different. You know, so there are times whenever conformity is good, and there's definitely times whenever conformity is bad. And it's important to make that distinction. So this guy...
We are social animals, so we are meant to live in the group, and we are competitive as well. So what has neoliberalism done to us? It has taken...
Well, first off, we're a hell of a lot more than all that stuff, and so narrowing it down to those two things is just... But I hope that surely he understands that, though. I don't know, you hear so much about Black Lives Matter, and oh, well, you're a straight white male or whatever, this is a black, gay, lesbian, trans person, so they're better than you. I don't know sometimes. I don't know this guy, so
out one of the two. It has turned us into competitive beings who are looking for number one all day long.
That is so damn stupid. Because the human race, human societies, we have always been like that since the beginning of time. We've been competing against each other for resources and mates and everything. We've gone to war for everything under the sun. Before the United States was even around, people were competing for everything. And it's ridiculous to think that you could live in a world without competition and without failure and all this stuff. It's like you're going to fail. You're competing with everything. You're competing at that job. You're competing for some boyfriend or girlfriend or whatever, and failure is going to happen. You're never going to get out of it. There's only one job opening. There's only one person that most people are going to be engaged with. You don't get a participation trophy for everything in life, and it's like, no, you should learn to be competitive. You should learn that it's okay to lose, because you're going to lose constantly. So get rid of those damn participation trophies. You're not going to get a participation trophy for showing up at a job and then not getting it. You're not going to get a participation trophy because you went and you saw someone who was dying at a hospital. You're going, shit happens. So no, this thing that competitiveness is wrong. It's like, no, it's a good thing. It's a great thing that you should learn to be a good sport, that things continue to go on even after it's all said and done. That if even kids who are playing sports, that whenever the game is over, that they go out there to the field and they say, good game, and they can manage to do it. It's like, well, why the hell can't you? Why can't I, my children?
And we have forgotten about the group, but at the same time, we need the group. The oldest punishment that you find everywhere in every culture for a child is being put out of the group.
Well, what do you mean put out of the group? Are you talking about timeout? I didn't know they used to do timeout. I thought that was something that was kind of new. Because whenever I was, I guess I was grounded. I didn't have timeout. I was grounded and I was swatted. So.
What are you getting at? That we've taken this route of hyper-individualism, we've abandoned the group.
Yeah, so we have locked out.
No, they haven't. Haven't abandoned the group at all. What are you talking about? Do you not know that students and companies or whatever, that they put people together in groups to be able to do projects and to work on assignments? What the hell are you talking about? I mean, that last video, one of those videos that we just saw, talked about how we have all of these groups. We have groups with our family, town, ethnicity, religion, our nation, religion. We're groups with our affiliations, professions, hobbies, all this stuff. What the hell are you talking about that there aren't groups?
Ourselves out. We have been turned into individuals without the natural relationship that we used to have with our neighbors, with our colleagues. Everyone has become a competitor. So
I don't know what he's talking about. I am not in competition with my neighbors over anything. I get along with my neighbors. I know my neighbors. I have no idea what he's talking about. I've had enough of this guy. I'm not going to leave a link in this for this guy, but if you want to, it's Paul Vergey on individualism at renegade.inc. And so if you want to go look it up, it's only 1.5 minutes long. Go ahead and knock yourself out. Moving on, a little bit of fun here. What is the time on this? Oh my goodness, it's getting too long. I swear if this thing crashes on me again. This is Superman and his dad from that Superman movie called Man of Steel. And this is from Flashback FM's YouTube channel here. And I like this little bit here at the end about, in the movie, Krypton they didn't have natural births anymore. They were growing them kind of like out of pods, like in the Matrix, I guess. And it was already determined what it is that you were going to be. Were you going to be a scientist, a politician, a warrior, whatever? And so this is how Superman came to be, because his parents said, well, what if the kid wants to be something more, or could be something more?
What if a child dreamed of becoming something other than what society had intended for him or her? What if a child aspired to something greater?
It's like, yeah, whenever it comes to your own personal life, you are absolutely 100% an individual, and you shouldn't conform a damn thing for your own personal stuff. Now, with things that you share in a society, such as with your family and with your job and culture and traditions, it's like, yes, you need to share in those things. So that means that in a way, there's not very much of an individual there. Because how much time do you actually spend alone? How much time do you spend at work and with your friends and with your family doing whatever? It's like a lot of it, and so you do the same things. So it's just like whenever one of the things that we do in culture is that we go and we drive cars. Or another way of putting it, We drive at high rates of speed in these big monstrous pieces of plastic, glass, and metal surrounded by strangers without pandemonium, chaos, and death reigning all around because we've conformed. That is definitely an appropriate time and place to do it. And whenever you do this, whenever you're in these groups, it makes it easier for everyone else to be able to participate and to do the same things, because it's like, this is the way that it's done, but you do need to kind of push it. It's like, what are some things that we can do better? And so we went from horses to cars, and now we're elevating it even further to trying to have cars that don't run on fuel, but they're being charged with electricity. And self-driving cars is another big thing that they're doing. It's like there's room for improvement. So
You were the embodiment.
And then I like the little part of the end, because I'm creating the noble house
Embodied
here.
within that hope is the fundamental belief, the potential of every person being a force for good. That's what you can bring.
Oh no, where is it? There it is.
That's what this symbol means. The symbol of the House of Earth.
The symbol of the House of Illinois. I'm creating my own noble house. I hope you're joining me in this too. Or just watch for now, but the videos will always stay up, so maybe you don't want to get into it just now, but it'll be there for later. This is from Ayn Rand. Oh, I didn't put up that. No, I don't want that up. I didn't put anything down on it, so I don't need it. But she wrote a book called Fountainhead. It was made into a movie, and the Simpsons are kind of using it here a little bit to make a point too. So we're going to go ahead and watch a bit of it.
Aggie's genius and creativity far exceeded that of the others. And I'm not just saying that because I'm her mother. But her teacher, Mr. Ellsworth Toohey, wanted every child to conform.
Banal, very banal. Ooh, wonderfully pedestrian. Oh, this isn't right. Maggie, dancers shouldn't kick too high and buildings mustn't reach the sky.
I don't know what that quote is, but it's obviously a reference to something. I don't know if it's from Fountainhead or something else.
There. The rubble is still a little bit higher than the others, so let's just... Ah, welcome to the real world, baby.
He would...
Welcome to the real world, baby. And it's like, yeah, that's the way that it is with too much. This is one of the reasons why large companies fail, is because they set up all of these rules and procedures, and it kind of entraps everyone into that box that we were talking about before. And if you want your company to really stay alive, you really need to allow for change and innovation. And that's why I have change as mine, as one of my values here. It's like I just believe that change is just such an important thing to have as a value that you need to recognize. Whenever I see something like people trying to talk to these Antifa members, for example, it's like they are just so close-minded. They think that they know it all and that nothing is better, and they just have it all. It's like, nope, you sure don't. You absolutely don't.
would not let Maggie's creativity flower.
And that's all he does, is he just keeps destroying her stuff. And it's because how many people can be brain surgeons or nuclear engineers or quantum physics? How many people can be dumb as dirt? Everyone can be dumb as dirt. So if you want to have an equal outcome for everyone, or the only level that everyone can all attain is the lowest. And it's not going to allow for anyone to be more than what they are. And that's exactly what he was saying here with this, is that what if you dreamed of becoming something more and you could actually attain it? And this is why it's so important for people to have freedom. Freedom for them to explore their upper limits. But still, I mean, if you don't come from a family who's going to help you be the best that you could be, and they keep you down, I've definitely experienced that. I think it's absolutely horrible and disgusting. I don't want that for myself or for anyone else. And so with that one from Learn Liberty, with that professor who was talking, that first video that we watched, I did put a link to his video right there because it was just really good that I felt like it just needed to be. And then in The Simpsons, he did talk about how, I hope, Maggie, that we have squashed your creativity and you're beaten down. And what did that remind me of? Well, I said it in one of my... Oh, let me think on it in a minute. Because my video crashed. I can't remember, but because I've had so many problems recording this video, I need to go ahead and stop it and do my second video for the day. So if you've learned something, if you've enjoyed this, if you'd like to continue to see more, it would help me out if you would do a like and also to subscribe. I'm going to do them regardless, but it would help me. And it's just encouraging whenever I see all those things happen, whenever I see another subscriber, whenever I see someone give it a like. I appreciate that. So we'll see you again later. Thanks for watching. Bye.